The door cracked open, and Adora's heart sank as Desmond stepped into the room. His once charming smile had twisted into something dark and wicked. The sisters, frozen in a place, locked eyes with each other, knowing that their worst fears were now a reality. They had discovered his secrets, and there was no going back. Well, it looks like you two have been busy. I was wondering when you'd stumble upon these pictures. So now you've found the pictures. You know who I truly am, Desmond said. Chamaka and her sister were now shaking. Desmond, this isn't what it looks like, Chamaka tried to explain. Desmond's laugh filled the room, cold and cruel. Isn't it? You've seen the pictures, haven't you? Those women, they all met the same fate, and now you and your sister will die the same way, Desmond said. Adora's heart almost ran out of her chest. She stepped backwards, holding her sister as she pleaded. Desmond, you don't have to do this. We won't tell anyone. Just let us go, please, Desmond. But Desmond's expression darkened further. Oh, you won't tell anyone. Alright, because you won't live long enough to do so. In a swift motion, he pulled a gun from his waistband and aimed at them. The twins' hearts pounded, and Adora felt the weight of her unborn child inside her. How had it all come to this? She asked herself. Get into the room, Desmond ordered, motioning towards a door at the back of his study. The sisters exchanged desperate glances before slowly moving towards the door. Inside, they found a small dark room with no windows, only a single light bulb. Desmond pushed them inside and locked the door behind them. They were trapped. As the reality of their situation began to sink in, Chamaka collapsed onto the cold floor, her body shaking with sobs. How could this happen? She whispered. How did we end up here? She asked. Adora sat down beside her, pulling her into a tight embrace. I don't know, my sister. Though her mind was already racing back to the day her sister had met Desmond, this man who had destroyed their lives. It all started so innocently. Chamaka, frustrated with being single, had turned to social media for distractions. That is where she met Desmond. They had connected on Facebook, and he had seemed like the perfect man, handsome, successful and kind. But now, with the truth laid bare, Adora realized how very little she had truly known about him. I met him online, Chamaka whispered through her tears. It was so fast. He was everything I thought I wanted. But now, I barely know him, Ada. He could have been anyone, she said. He wasn't anyone, Chi, Adora said softly. He was a monster hiding behind the masks. The sisters held each other, the weight of the truth pressing down on them. Desmond had always been secretive, disappearing for hours, but Chamaka felt he was busy with work. Now they knew better. This man they had both loved was part of a human trafficking and ritual killing gang. He didn't just kill women, he sold their bodies, their parts to the highest bidder. And now they were next. Desmond kept them locked in the room for what felt like days. The sisters had no sense of time as they huddled each other, waiting for their inevitable fate. Occasionally, Desmond would open the door to throw in some food or water, his eyes cold and calculating. He didn't speak to them, only watched them with a wicked eye. One night, after what felt like an eternity of waiting, Adora noticed that the door hadn't been locked properly. The faintest glimmer of hope sparkled within her. She tapped Chiamaka, who had been lying down lost in her own despair. Chi, I think we can get out of here, Adora whispered. Chiamaka looked up, her eyes dull with hopelessness. What's the point, Ada? He will still catch us. Let's just stay here, Chiamaka said. We have to try, Adora insisted. If we don't, we'll die here. With shaky hands, Adora gently pushed the door open. The hallway outside was dark and quiet. They crept forward, their hearts racing as they made their way towards the front door. Just as they reached the door, Desmond appeared from the shadows, his face twisted in fury. "Going somewhere?" he asked them. Adora screamed as Desmond raised the gun and fired. The shots echoed through the house and Chiamaka fell to the floor, clutching her side where the bullet had struck her. "Chi!" Adora cried, dropping to her knees beside her sister. Blood seeped through Chiamaka's fingers as she gasped for breath, her face pale with shock. Desmond stood over them, the gun still smoking in his hand. "You didn't think I would let you get away, did you?" He grabbed Adora by the arm and dragged her back to the room, leaving Chiamaka lying on the floor, bleeding and struggling to breathe. For days, Adora sat beside her sister, her mind tormented by the thought of what to do. Chiamaka's wound wasn't fatal, but she was growing weaker by the day, and there was no one coming to help them. Desmond kept them trapped, occasionally taunting them with the fate that awaited them. "I can't do this anymore," Adora whispered one night, her hand resting on her swollen belly. "I can't carry his child, Chi. I can't bring a baby into this world knowing that his father is a serial killer," she said. Chiamaka, weak from the blood loss but still fighting to stay conscious, reached out and grabbed her sister's hand. "Ada, please don't do anything rash." "I don't want this child," Adora insisted. "I don't want to give birth to the son of a monster." Tears filled Chiamaka's eyes as she squeezed Adora's hand. "But he's not the monster, Ada. He's innocent. Don't let Desmond's evil destroy more lives. Don't let him take your child away from you," Chiamaka told her sister softly. Adora cried, her body trembling with the weight of the decision. She had thought about it every day since discovering Desmond's truth, about ending the pregnancy, about sparing her child from the horror of his father's legacy. But Chiamaka's words kept ringing in her ears, pulling her back from this horrible decision. The child was innocent. He didn't deserve to die because of his father's sin. With her sister's support, Adora made the decision to keep the baby. But the thought of Desmond still haunted her. They needed to escape, for their sake and for the child. It wasn't long after Desmond's cruelty began to unravel. He grew careless, drinking more and leaving them unsupervised for longer periods. The sisters, now united again, waited for the right moment to strike. One night, while Desmond was passed out drunk in his study, the sisters made their move. Adora helped Chiamaka limp towards the front door, their hearts pounding in fear. This time, they didn't hesitate. They ran very far away. Desmond woke up just as they made it to the road. He stumbled after them, shouting threats, but the sound of police siren filled the air. Adora had managed to steal Desmond's phone earlier and had sent a desperate message for help to a friend before they escaped. The police arrived just in time, surrounding Desmond and taking him into custody. His crimes were exposed, and the full extent of his evil was revealed. He had been responsible for the deaths of dozens of women, and his involvement in human trafficking and ritual killings shocked the entire community. The sisters were free, but the trauma lingered. Months later, Adora gave birth to a healthy baby boy. Chiamaka, still recovering from her injury, stood by her side in the hospital, holding her hand as the baby let out his first cry. Despite the horror they had endured, the sisters found comfort in the new life before them. They decided to raise the child together, keeping Desmond's dark secret. He would grow up loved and cared for, unaware of the monster his father had been. But Adora knew that one day he would ask about his father, and when that day came, she would have to decide how much of the truth to tell him. The end. If you enjoyed this story, kindly give us a thumbs up. Do not forget to subscribe and share to your friends. Until next time, bye.